Welcome everybody to a new episode of Tradomics. My name is Dario, and in this video, I'm gonna have a focus on the main fintech stocks in the US market. So if you have recently landed on this channel, here we apply the T cycle analysis, which is a quantitative methodology that is based on time and based on the different duration of the cycles. Hence, at any point in time of a chart, you can predict how long the price can keep falling or rising according to statistics. If you want to know more about our methodology, you can click on the pop-up banner on the right-hand side, Introduction to the T-Cycle Analysis. And if you want to be notified as soon as possible, especially if you have some stocks under you in your portfolio or under your radar, then you can subscribe to the channel. So let's get started with Mastercard. I always leave intentionally the arrows because I do this episode once every month, and every time I start a new episode, this is for all my episodes, I start by talking about what I have said according to the last analysis. So you have more transparency about what I am saying, and especially what I was hoping or what I was calculating to foresee according to the last video. So in this case, we said in the last analysis that we have an upward cycle T plus 5 yearly cycle that was broken to the upside. Therefore, this cycle is positive. And we can foresee more upside because we have now a duration of 200 216 bars. So 216 bars is close to the minimum duration of a T plus 5, 189 up to 339. When a cycle is positive, in this case an upward cycle, we can forecast more uptrend according to the duration. So here, basically, in the best case scenario, we can continue to stay in the uptrend until this would be the best case for Mastercard until 339 days, which means that we can continue to go up until this date until 29th of July 2025. Of course, the more we reach the maximum duration, the less probability we will have to proceed to the uptrend. This is merely statistic. But so far, we still have room and time to proceed to the uptrend, especially because this first cycle has been a T plus 4, so 6 months cycle. And now here we are on a new cycle. So this one can be either a T plus 3 or a T plus 4 because we have already a certain amount of candles below the stop so that we can identify this stop as a 3 months or 6 month cycle. Uh, in particular, here we have 23 bars. So I would tend also to consider this rather than a T plus 4, more a T plus 3 than a T plus 4, because 23 bars is really the minimum duration to have a T plus 4. So given that we have this conservative approach, meaning that we lower down by a grade the cycle, here we can foresee more uptrend until its minimum duration, which is 49 days. This is more on the short term. So we can proceed to the uptrend until 4th of March 2025. Of course, we can even proceed longer, but in order to do that, we have also to analyze the sub-cycle. Especially here, we have added the first T plus 2. Okay, so this is the first monthly cycle that has been positive, and now we are basically on the second monthly upward cycle of this T plus 3 T plus 4 cycle. So from this top here, considering that we are on a positive T plus 5, we can return back to the absolute tops until the minimum up to the maximum duration of a T plus 2. So we can, by 6th of March 2025, up to um, up to 44, so up to uh, up to 2nd of April 2025 to return back to this top, which is at five $576.94. Okay, so this is what I can forecast for the next 2 to 3 weeks. We have a solid uptrend, and as I said, this uptrend has still room to proceed to the upside. um, in the meantime, we can also or we must study the downward cycles. And regarding the downward cycle, we have potentially on this low the beginning of a new T plus 5. This is something that I was saying also in the last analysis, because here from this low that we made on the 27th of October 2023 until the low of the 13th of January 2025, we have 302 bars. So we were close to the maximum duration of a T plus 5. And with this condition where we have a monthly negative downward cycle, we had all the condition to close at T plus 5. So when we have a new T plus 5 that is about to start or has just started, here we can foresee more uptrend because we need to develop a T plus 5, and in order to develop a T plus 5 we need a certain amount of candles that are above this low, and in this case we need at least 3 months. So you can imagine that for the next 2 weeks, but also for the next months, the push to the upside will be strong. Okay, so in terms of really quick notice on the downward cycle, on this low potentially we have the condition of a T plus 2. So for the next week, potentially we might have a little bit more on a steady state situation because we have to close at T plus 2. But then after, let's say, at the beginning of the next week / next week, we will have a return back to the all-time highs. Okay, so that's the situation we have on Mastercard, and we now jump onto its competitor, which is Visa. On Visa, we have a similar situation as for Mastercard. So I was saying in the last videos that we could have proceeded to the upside given that this T plus 5 upward cycle is positive. At the moment, we have reached a total duration of um, 228 bars. So we have more than a minimum duration to eventually close at T plus 5, but still room to proceed to the upside. If we want to have another overview, especially regarding the short term, here we have potentially a T plus 3 month cycle that is already positive. But over the short term, we have to expect a bit of retracement because we have reached 34 bars, and here we have potentially the beginning of what? The beginning of a T plus 2. So if that will be confirmed next week, for the beginning of next week, we might have a little bit more retracement to the downside, and potentially we can hit this first target moving average 21, and after that we will have room to return back to the absolute tops. We have already the minimum time to close a T plus 5 though, so the situation, especially for the downward cycle, is slightly different because here I segmented the T plus 5, the beginning of the T plus 5 here on the 25th of July 2024 compared to Mastercard, in which the T plus 5 was born later. And in this case on Visa, rather than a T plus 5 here, we have a 6-month cycle. In other words, the downward cycle on Visa started before compared to Mastercard. At least this is what the chart is suggesting me. Okay, so here be careful. Beginning of next week we might have a little bit more retracement to the downside, but as said, still room to return back to the absolute tops, even because the retracement has been not so wide at the moment. We have a top which is at $357.15, and the return back to the absolute all-time highs will lead the price to an upside that, according to today, is around 2.15%. So that's the situation we have on Visa. I repeat, still room to proceed to the upside, potentially retracement beginning of next week, as it's already ongoing. And this retracement will also lead to the closing of the downward cycle T+2. Okay, so that is statistically the way forward for beginning of next week. But then, as you know, as I repeated already, then we can proceed back to the upside. The next company in focus is PayPal. So on PayPal, during the last analysis, but not only during the last one, but even two analyses ago, I was flagging this top as the possibility to begin not just a T+4, but even a T+5. Actually, the time was run out because we stretched at really maximum time this T+5. We reached 343 bars, which is more than 339, and hence here we have had a Bayer tongue. The Bayer tongue in this case was this one, 28 bars. So this T+2 is in reality a T+2 which is connecting a T+5 and another T+5. And if you want to know more about the Bayer tongues, then you can basically see the introduction, the video um, that it's explained in the introduction to the T cycle analysis. But in any case, like in this case, or in this case, or in this case, the Bayer tongue are basically extra time. So it's a cycle of a 3 degrees less encompassed between a wider cycle of 3 degrees more and another cycle. Okay, in this case we have had between a first T+4 and the second T+4 a T+1, which is a bi-weekly cycle, and between T+5 and another T+5, we have had this Bayer tongue, which is 3 degrees less. A subcycle is a T+2. Okay, so here we can update the chart by saying that this is not longer a T+4, but it's a T+5. In the last analysis, I was also saying that we would have expected the beginning of the downward cycle T+5. So that's why I left also this T+5 here. And I was not really sure whether this was the beginning of a T+5, because here I was saying that in case of um, high pressure of buyers, we could have closed already the T+5 like this, because we had a negative T+2, so already we would have we had all the conditions, and here we were not forced to begin a T+5 but a T+4, because we could have reached the absolute tops in case a T+5 was about to begin, but that was not the case. So basically we have a standard segmentation in T+5, so yearly cycles, which is even better to read, I have to say. So what can we say regarding what has happened after the earning release? So despite was a positive one, or at least over the expectation of the analyst, here the time was basically telling us that we would have had more probability to the downside, as for my last analysis. So I hope that you really had the opportunity to take a benefit from what I was saying. So now this thing is that we, from this low here, we of course don't have a T+5 because this cycle is too short, but we have at least a T+2, and this T+2 is negative. Okay, and basically we are expecting to go lower this low, which is at $75.30, because the time, if we gauge the time from this low from which the T+2 has began until here we have 20 bars, which is not enough, but with today's bar we have 27 bars. So we can expect beginning of next week to go lower this low and to hit the moving average 200. This will be a resistance level in which the price can bounce back to the upside. Okay, but so far this is the situation that we have, and I'm gonna leave also the arrow here for the beginning of next week. In terms of time, for those of you that are expecting a bounce back to the upside, or for those of you that are thinking to buy PayPal, here we had 329 bars, so we can extend the downtrend, the short-term downtrend up to 339. 339 means that we can continue to further go down until the 7th of March 2025, excluding Bear tongue. Because if there will be a Bear tongue, like in this case, but on the downward cycle, then we can extend the duration of the closing of this T plus 5 for an additional month. And if you then consider 339 bars plus 44 bars, you can reach around 380 days. So in that case, if they want to proceed further to the downside, then we cannot expect a bounce back to the upside, or to start a new T plus 5 by, in the worst case scenario, until, let's say, the earning release of 30th of April 2025, but we can also extend it a little bit more until the first week of May 2025. So here you are aware of what can happen if they really wanted to prolong the closing of this T plus 5. You can even reach the time for the next earning release. So then you have to consider your risk, if you wanted to invest, or if you want to have a short-term, let's say, participation in PayPal or buy the shares. Okay, so that's the situation we have so far. This T plus 5 for the moment we don't need. Instead, here I can update the chart with a weekly cycle that um, that started here on the 12th of February. And in terms of upward cycle, from the stop 17th of January until the stop here, we have 20 bars. Hence here we have a B weekly upward cycle that was closed on this candle on the 19th of February 2025. On Discover Financial Services, last analysis, I was flagging here the possibility that from this low, we could have had the beginning not just of a T plus 2, but something more. If we gauge the total duration from this downward cycle T plus 5 until here, we have 287 bars. So potentially from this low, we have the beginning of a new T plus 5. Otherwise, we have to expect really in a short time harsh retracement to close the T plus 5, because we are at around 329, 330 bars. So we still have a week eventually to close the T plus 5. But in order to close the T plus 5, we have to go lower this low. If this is not going to happen next week, here we have a high probability that a new T plus 5 has begun. Okay, so I can update the chart with at least a T plus 3, because here we have already several bars that are saying that this one is a T plus 3. And the total duration low to low here is 36 bars. So here we have a T plus 2. So this is the situation of the downward cycle. Regarding the upward cycle, those are our compass to understand how long the price can continue to the upside, because if there is a strong uptrend, we have to look more at the upward cycles. From this low here, we have a T plus 3, which is a 3-month cycle, positive one that has ended here on the 30th of January 2025 after 56 bars. So from this top here, we have the beginning of a new T plus 2 or T plus 3. Why T plus 2, T plus 3? Because we don't have yet the time to consider that top as the beginning of an entire T plus 3, because we would need at least more bars. So here we have a 15 bars. It's already okay to have a T plus 3, but let's see next week whether we will go over this top or not. If next week we will go over this top at $205, then we can proceed further to the upside. Okay, further to the upside, and conservatively speaking, we can proceed further to the upside. Let's say worst case scenario until the 6th of March 2025, and best case scenario until 3rd of April. Okay, if we go over this top. But also we have to carefully monitor in case of a harsh downtrend this low, because if from here we have the beginning of a T plus 2 and then we go back to the absolute lows and then we go even lower, then we will have a negative cycle. So far we have more possibility to return back to this absolute top, because the yesterday's top was done at 203.38, and the top absolute top was at 205. So when a cycle is already reaching after a little time the absolute tops, we have more possibilities to proceed to the upside, unless we have a double top situation, which in this case is not there because we are far away from having a double top at the moment. Okay, so this is the situation we have so far. I can also update the chart by saying that this is a T plus 3. Let's use this one as a T plus 3 because um, gives us more a conservative view for the upside, even if we are coming from a strong and solid uptrend. But that is the situation that we have so far. So have a look for the next week, especially on this top at 205.05. In the last video on block, I was saying that given that here we have the T plus 5 upward cycle that is positive, we can return to the absolute tops by a duration which is 189 up to 339 days. Okay, so this first cycle lasted, let's have a look, lasted 185 bars, which is not enough to close a T plus 5. Therefore here we are on the second on the third T plus 4 6-month cycle. So here we have a add up T plus 3, then a T plus 4, and now we are on another T plus 4. This T plus 4 has pushed the price down, especially with the earnings release of yesterday, lower than moving average 200. So this is the today's candle, sorry. So the today's candle with the earnings release pushed the price further down of the moving average 200. And this is like PayPal, the situation in which we can close a T plus 5. So let's have a look. We have 300 28 bars to close this T plus 5. So if you're an investor, what you can expect is that this downtrend can further proceed up to 339 bars. So this downtrend can proceed up to 7th of March 2025. But as said on PayPal, if they want, they can even stretch further this closing of a T plus 5 because they can attach a Bayer tongue. And a Bayer tongue in this case would be a monthly cycle that can be attached between a T plus 5 and another T plus 5. So if they want, they can proceed further to the downside until a duration of 380 bars. So 380 bars is around 2nd of May, so first week of May. And first week of May, guess what? We have another earnings release. So this is the identical situation as we have on PayPal. Now, the only thing is that on PayPal here was clear that we had a T plus 5, but according to the segmentation I have, desktop represent a T plus 4. So when the new T plus 5 will start, I'm expecting a return back to this absolute top. But if we will continue to go, especially lower this low at 63.93 and lower this low, and especially this one, which is the most important one at 59, then from this top here, we might have not just a T plus 4, but a T plus 5. And if here we have a T plus 5, unfortunately, we might have the condition in which we have a 2-year cycle T plus 6 that cannot be divided in 2 years T plus 5. And this thing, I know it's a technicality, but when there are situations of this kind, then such downtrend are less foreseeable. Okay, and so let's wait another 2-3 months and let's see if especially this cycle will be stretched more to the downside. Of course, here we don't have a T plus 5, but we have just T plus 2 for sure. Let's see whether this is already a T plus 3. I don't think so. It's a T plus 2. Okay, so this is a T plus 2, same for as PayPal. So you are aware how long we can proceed to the downside. And of course, here, let me, let's say a suggestion: do not buy now, because we still have time to proceed to the downside, and we have a long dark candle here plus a gap down. Okay, so it's not the right time to buy. Let me leave with this suggestion, and especially we can proceed to the downside until the next earnings release. Okay, so that's the situation we have so far on block, and I hope this video has given you lots of insights. If you want to know more about the methodology, you can watch the video. And if you wanted to have analyzed some other stocks that are not reported in my playlist, then you can write me at tradomica@gmail.com. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching the video, and see you to the next episode.